Hello and welcome to the Wednesday week. It is a special edition again this week with a My Wednesday podcast. I am joined by Charlie. Hi, Charlie.
Hi, Vic. You all right?
Yes, thank you. So let's have a chat about Sheffield Wednesday. And obviously this whole point of this little mini podcast is just getting to know the people who are there in the grounds at Hillsborough on a Saturday afternoon, a Tuesday evening, and why you're there and what makes you tick. So why do you support Sheffield Wednesday?
I suppose it all started with my grandparents, really. So my dad's parents, growing up, the way I distinguished between my two sets of grandparents on my mum's side and my dad's, every time I went to my dad's parents' house, they had owls everywhere. And so my mum's parents, they were called Mama and Grandad. And my dad's ended up being called Mama Twitwoo because of all the apples. And then my grandfather was called Papa. Now, they had owls everywhere, and growing up, I didn't really realise why until I was a little bit older. But as well as that, my grandfather, my papa, had in his back garden a statue of an owl, and basically had this tradition, which growing up I just thought was completely normal. It was only as I got older I realised how odd it was. But whenever Wednesday played in the FA Cup, he would wear a bow tie. So for all of that season's FA Cup games, he would wear a bow tie. And then as soon as they got knocked out of the FA Cup, he would take off the bow tie and take it to the back garden and bury it underneath the owl.
Wow, okay. That's dark.
Yeah. So that was kind of like a ceremony for us in our family growing up. And whenever I went to do an opt-out, which obviously was all the time growing up, not won it in our lifetime, we'd go and bury it under this owl. So then...
is it on like a mound now? Because it's on that many bow ties.
Yeah, exactly. It's got its own mountain. And yeah, so my papa, growing up all my life as a Wednesday fan, really, was in the executive boxes up until I was in my late teens, early 20s, because he had a box.
Right.
So I had quite a different match day experience to most people up until my late teens, really.
So how come he had a box then? Was that through his company, or was it just...
Yeah, so he had a company and bought it, I suppose, under the premise of that, really. But you're never going to seal a business deal, really, by taking your customers to watch Wednesday. So
I don't know. That's what my dad told the tax man for about 30 years.
Exactly the same, yeah. So that's why it was there under the company name, but it was, it was a friends and family thing, really. And then every so often to take a business associate along.
Great. So back in the prawn sandwiches brigade, then sat in the box, what's your earliest memory? What's the first game you remember watching?
Well, I think being in that kind of privileged position, I probably went all my life from being really little. Like you see it now with players and things, they take their babies along and, they're in there. But the first game I really kind of clearly remember was, unfortunately, at this point, I think it was the season after we'd gone down from the Premier League. So I can remember going to those games, but the first game, I can remember sitting and watching properly. We were playing Birmingham, and I think it was a game where he had a business associate there, something like that. And I think it was fairly early on in the season. And in my mind, we were playing them, and they were top of the league, and we were bottom. And it was probably early in the season, so it didn't really matter. But I remember us winning 1-0, and I'm thinking, oh, wow, we're brilliant.
It could have just been when they're in alphabetical order as well.
Exactly, yeah. It could have literally been one of the first games of the season. But yeah, I think I probably went from being very young, but I suppose that was when I was around the age of 9, I would think, when I start first actually remembering the games.
So that's like back in the year 2000 then, isn't it? When we kind of sort of settled into the second division. So around that time then, obviously, you're a couple of years after me, so you didn't get probably as many joyous memories of the teams that I saw in the 90s. But who was your favourite player growing up?
Well, unfortunately, kind of you're spot on. I don't really remember the Premier League years. I remember very clearly when we went down and being upset about it, but I don't remember. I don't have the, being able to recall watching Waddle and Hurst and people like that. Even Carboni and Di Canio. I can remember, what were they called? The little figures you used to get in the chocolates. I can remember having a Di Canio one of those.
Yeah.
Completely, the name's gone, but I remember having those. But my favourite player when I first properly getting into it was Alan Quinn, and then obviously when he left and went where he did, that was heartbreaking for me. I even had an Alan Quinn screensaver on one of my first phones. On the Nokias where you could colour in the background. I'd spelt out Alan Quinn on there.
Cute. Did you ever get to meet him?
I did. So I was a mascot when, I don't know what the year was. And unfortunately, when you got to have your photo with the players, I chose to have a photo with him, and he was away on internationals, because at that point you didn't necessarily get them postponed, did you? So I think I ended up meeting him a year or so later when my younger brother was a mascot. But I ended up on that day actually I thought, oh, well, who will I go for? I'll go for Pressman as a safe backup, and had my photo with him, and he walked with him out onto the pitch and those kind of things. But then as I grew up, I ended up playing football with his son Danny. So there's a bit of looking back now, I've got that photo and saw Kevin every weekend for a few years.
Do you know what? I have a very similar situation where one of my closest friends from growing up, her dad is Chris Waddle. And the amount of times that I've been drunk and everyone's getting selfies with players and Chris comes out and I'm like, it's just Brooke's dad. It's just weird getting a selfie with him. But at the same time, he is Chris Waddle. But then I send them here and she's like, God, will you just stop it or I'll start getting selfies with your dad? It's just weird. So, I can see that. So, when you're a mascot as a kid, because I was pulled out of the hat. It used to be that you got pulled out of the hat if you had a kid's season ticket. And I was pulled out for Middlesbrough at home, which I believe was Boxing Day 98. I could be wrong there. Boxing Day 99, sorry. And we were in America, so I didn't get to meet Paul Ince, which I remember I was absolutely devastated about. So I never got drawn out of the hat again. So I never got to experience what it is to be a mascot at Hillsborough. What does that feel like as a little kid?
Oh yeah, it's amazing. You feel so special. I can remember all of my family coming along and sitting in the stands, and even just getting the kit and those kind of things, because I think at the time you got given the kit, didn't you, if you went to be a mascot? But I only had that season ticket. Yeah, and so I think my papa kind of arranged a bit of a thing with him and said, oh, well, he's got the season. We'll wait until next season to get that for free. But I can just remember that walking out, obviously, before the teams actually come out and they're doing the warm-ups beforehand, and just playing with, I suppose, the other mascots and then a few players who come and join you. That just felt amazing. It just felt, as a child, just think, wow, everybody's looking at you, and actually, you're just in the stands milling around and whatever. But it was fantastic. We played Watford and we drew 2. So I wasn't a good luck charm or anything, but it was something that you always look back and you've got the memories. And
I know, I've been down on the pitch a number of times as an adult. I've never been down as a kid, but when you look around and just the enormity of the place and just the atmosphere, I can only begin to imagine, when you see these dads on Twitter that take the kids up the stairs for a long time and that, I just can't imagine walking out onto the pitch as a little kid and just seeing, especially Hillsborough as it was then, because it was a completely different sort of scenario. It was packed, well, I suppose it's like it is now, but it was packed out. You were still talking big players, and it must have just been incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. I think it's up here. I can't remember the year. I think it was 2002, maybe. Maybe I'm getting it wrong. You get a little. It's covered in dust because I don't look at it. It's like a paperweight. 2003 it is. It probably won't show up on the camera if I hold it up anyway, but
right.
Okay. I imagine they either get something much more fancy now or nothing at all.
I don't think they actually get anything at all now, and I think it's a few hundred quid at least to be a mascot now. It definitely, even up until I worked at the club in 2009, and I remember even then we were drawing kids' season ticket holders out of a hat, and then it just got stopped completely. Because you used to get all sorts being a kid's season ticket holder. I had a McDonald's scarf. I had a hat.
Yeah, I've got that over there in the cupboard still.
You just keep
the
stuff
hat
going.
as well. And
it was horrible, gold and blue, but that showed you a member of Sheffield Wednesday kids. So do you remember then, apart from obviously El Clasico with Watford, do you remember what your favourite game was? Like, it doesn't even have to be in childhood now. You can even go a little bit further forward.
Well, I think, I don't know what the age was, but maybe just before going to university, but definitely when I was at university, I started to decide I wanted to be in the stand a little bit. And I think it was just because there was that many of us wanting to go there, me and my cousins and things. As we got older, we wanted to go more often. So we had a few season tickets in the stand, and then eventually it just ended up that I was going in there. And one of the games I'll always remember is, well, not at Hillsborough, but at the New York Stadium, where we came from behind in the last minute, and there's a photo in one of the programs because I was there with my now wife, Katie, and when we scored the third to go 3-2 up, the guy in front of me just kind of turned round and went like that, and I jumped into his arms, and then we just fell down about 3 rows. And there's a photo in the program, the celebrations afterwards, where I think it's Kieran Lee kind of just in front of the stand, and I'm on my way climbing back up 2 or 3 rows, and you can just see her like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" on her face. So that was a great day, and we've got the memories and the photos from that. We've got about 3 copies of that program just to keep looking back at it every so often.
You do, don't you? Like it's like some big sort of like newspaper that everyone sees. I must have got like 10 copies of programs I've been in that no one else would even know I was in it, but I've got them like piled up just to show someone one day.
Yeah, exactly.
Talking of like moments like that, then do you have any other like iconic moments where you've like looked around and gone, wow, this is, like if you think back to like the Cardiff playoff final or even the Wembley playoff final, even though it was bittersweet, are there any moments that you just kind of step back and you're almost that 9-year-old kid again who's the mascot on the pitch against Watford? Do you get that same buzz?
Yeah, I think it kind of the moments that really stick out probably from around the Carlos era, that first season especially, where we're on that run and we got into the playoffs. But for my dad kind of just goes to the football now. Just to be with me and my brother. He's not bothered. He kind of fell out of love with football when all the Premier League money came in, and I can remember in that season, especially, you could tell he was starting to enjoy it again, and little things like that, like when we played Arsenal in the cup and beat them, and then in the playoffs when we had Brighton, and the first goal that went in and then it was disallowed for offside, we'd gone crazy. And I guess it must just be a thing. Again, we'd fallen down onto the row in front of us, me and my dad, and his watch had come off and he couldn't find it. And then we got back up still going crazy. And then obviously the goal had been disallowed. So he broke his watch for that, even though it didn't count. Just little things like that. And I've got 2 boys myself now, and kind of like what you were saying there about, you see these videos which you probably didn't see in the past where they're online and on Twitter and things, and I want to be able to do that in the next year or so. Take my oldest 3 now, so it's just kind of the ideal scenario. Was in my head a few weeks ago, I was thinking, well, we'll have won the league by the time we play Derby on the last day. That's going to be the game. I'll take him along then. And now, yeah,
it's a bit risky now, isn't it? You don't want to kill his love for it before it's even started. That's the thing. Yeah. So what is your match day routine then at the moment? Like, because obviously between 3 and 5, we're all just sat in our seats, watch the match, maybe have a pint at half time if you're willing to wait for the whole second half for a pint. But what do you do? Like, what's the before and after? What's the full match day?
Well, Saturdays, to be fair, up until probably this season, maybe a little, went off it a bit last season. I went to every game, home and away. And I suppose the story really kind of leads into it. So basically, when I got with my girlfriend Katie at university, she wasn't into football at all. And then I got to start coming along with me to the games, and she started going all over the country and stuff, really got into it. And her dad's a Sunderland fan. So then one week I was like, oh, you should go with your dad. And then I think she quickly realised they were a lot better than us. So now she's now a season ticket holder at Sunderland and goes there home and away, which last season was obviously interesting in our household with the playoffs. But when we just had our oldest Joseph, who's 3, we could kind of, we both always go to the home games. Then if we were, I don't know, one of us had a big away game or we both wanted to go to one on the same day, it'd be all right to get a babysitter. But now there's two of them, it's a little bit more tricky. So this season, not done as many away games. So it's kind of like just picking and choosing when you can, which it's a bit hard now with the point system. I should have been one of those people who buys the tickets anyway and sells them on, but I didn't do that. I did the right thing, and now I'm cursing myself for it because, like, I could have gone on Saturday to Burton. That's one that nice and local, really, but I can't get a ticket. But yeah, anyway, so a normal Saturday for me, I like my running. So Saturday morning, my brother lives like on the street next to me, so we tend to both go do a park run there, and then I take Joseph to his football. He does something called Diddy Kicks, which is not necessarily just football.
That. It's the cutest thing.
Yeah, it's good. So they work on all kind of skills for kids and just social things and mini games. So that's brilliant. And then head down to Hillsborough. So me and my brother will take it in turns to drive. Because we live in Leeds, it's just easy. One of us will do it one time. And then my dad lives in Mansfield. So we meet up a little bit up the road from Hillsborough. So we meet up at, what's it called? Today's Catch Chip Shop. We meet up there. We tend to get chips.
What's it called? Is it Lane End? Lane Top? Sheffield Lane Top, isn't it?
Yeah, up there where sometimes we go to Berries and change it up, but most of the time you can't change if you're on a good run. So we go to the Chippy, walk down from there. We tend to get to the ground fairly early, usually like, I don't know, around 1:30, just after when the turnstiles open, have a couple of pints in there, because more often than not, it's like the first time in 2 weeks that we've seen my dad, with him living in Mansfield. So it's just a nice chance to get down early, have some food, have a couple of beers and just catch up. And then the last couple of years has been brilliant, really, hasn't it? Because hardly any losses at home. And last season was bizarre because, was it 3 games we lost, something like that, home all season in the league anyway. And we missed them all. So when we lost to Oxford, we were doing the London Marathon. When we lost to Rotherham, it was my dad's 60th and we were away on holiday. And there may have been one other. So we missed all of those. So it's like 2 years or something. Oh, and this year when we lost to Barnsley, it was my brother's wedding day. So we've not seen us lose a home
good luck charm then. Yeah. It's you that needs to be there. Forget Darren Moore, forget Barry Bannon. Like, just stick you in the South Stand and we're happy.
Unfortunately, I've seen some away losses in that time, but it was getting to the point where we've literally got to wear the same clothes. We've got to do the same thing. And then after this little run, we kind of tried to change everything we could on whatever day it was. I've lost track of days. Monday, wasn't it?
Friday, Monday, and then Friday
Monday we stood in a different place in the ground and didn't speak to the people we normally speak to, and we've decided that we're not allowed to speak to them again now.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? How you just get like there's a whole routine around it. It's not just about the match day. It's things like you said about seeing your dad, who's obviously a couple of hours away normally. Like my parents I'm in Hillsborough, but my parents are out like sort of Derbyshire way. So it is for me. My dad's quite ill, so it's a big moment that I get to see him like once a fortnight and spend the day with him. And just we go in quite early and have a pint in the ground because it's cheaper than most pubs as well.
It is as well. They've just raised it 50p, haven't they?
Yeah, it's like.
Still all right.
It was £4.80 a pint or £4 under the North Stand. Like, come on. So yeah, I think it is that, and I think that's what you can't explain to people who aren't football fans. So obviously, like your girlfriend, now wife, sort of understood it and took it on board and has ended up defecting to Sunderland. But it's the full package, isn't it? It's not just those 90 minutes, but those 90 minutes can ruin the whole evening and day afterwards, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
So just to round it off then, Charlie, what does the club and being a Wednesdayite mean to you?
I don't know. It's so hard to sum up, isn't it? It's I can remember my dad passing me a newspaper article, and it popped up online a couple of years ago, where I must have been, I don't know, 8 or 9, probably after we'd just come down from the Premier League and it wasn't looking good again. And the headline was something like, anybody can support Arsenal, but it takes a real man to support Sheffield Wednesday, something like that. And I can just remember that, and it popped up online, like I say, a couple of years ago, and I sent it on. And just, I think it's so, even just the name is so unique, isn't it? But it's kind of like what you were just saying there, seeing your family, seeing the same people, the same faces, that chance to chat up, and that chance to catch up. And like when just the connection. So when we were down, I went to Portsmouth when we got that great win, whenever it was a couple of months ago, and just seeing how much it means to everybody at the end, the celebrations, the players as well. When they came over, it was the first time ever at a match. I was like, welling up. I was feeling emotional because I was thinking, wow, I actually believe now we're going to do it. Obviously, it's not looking as good at the minute, but at that point,
I was going to say, do you think we will? Do you think, obviously, we're recording this on the 12th of April. I have to say that because it might not go out for a couple of weeks. And Holly got absolutely shafted the other week by being really positive just before we lost all those games. As it stands now, we're back up there. We're back in automatic spots. You know, we had the win on Monday. It was, you know, Liam Palmer popped up again with another goal. What do you think is going to happen between now and the end of the season?
I'd resign myself to the playoffs. And then, because like I just had in my head, you know, such a good chance completely thrown away in this last month. And even if we were to win every game, this was before Monday, you were looking, you think, well, one of those two teams could win every game. The other one could win every game and draw, and that's it. They've done it or whatever. But now they both kind of slipped up a little bit. And Ipswich in particular, I think it's within 4 days, something like that, isn't it? They play Barnsley and Peterborough. So this is the problem. It's the hope that kills you, isn't it? I'd kind of accepted it. I was thinking, oh no, let's just accept it. We're in the playoffs. And now I think after Saturday and Tuesday, if we've got 6 points, then we can believe again. But I still think, a lot can change. But at the moment, I'm just trying to think, well, resign myself to the playoffs and avoid disappointment. Before the season started, I put the biggest bet on, and I don't really bet, but I never put it in my life. I put £50 on for us to win the league. So,
wow,
a couple of weeks
what were the odds on that?
Well, it returned 350 quid. So, about a month ago, I was looking at it, and I think I could have cashed out for like 290. And I thought, well, I'm not going to do that because we're going to do it. 60 more quid to come. And I looked at it on Friday, and I think I could have cashed out for 30.
It's
so hopefully we do turn it around.
I don't bet on us very often. I think my last big bet was the year that we had the Wickham game at the end of the season, and I just got something like £4 odd left in my Sky Bet account, and I was like, right, I'll put £3 on us to win. Like, that was just pretty standard. That returned virtually nothing, and then £1 something I put on a 15-fold accumulator. But I just pressed buttons. I had no idea. And it wasn't until we got home, not only were we celebrating like promotion, I'd won like 400 odd quid in my account as well, just off this random bet. So ever since that, I've not dared to do it again because I just don't think, I think you can only win a few times at betting and then you've kind of lost it, haven't you? So, right, well, thank you for chatting to me, Charlie. It's been really good to talk to you. Obviously, we'll share this on social media. You need to send me a photo of you as a little one in your Wednesday kit. And keep listening. Thank you for your support. Speak to you later.
Yeah. Thank you very much. See ya.